Hey, it's the One Radio Gamescast. We're back. We're doing the thing. New space. Don't worry, nothing's changing. That's the spiel. It's episode 116. We're going to be talking about what we've been playing this week, as well as the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct, and, the Steam Next Fest demos that some of us have hoarded in mass to try.
Good.
So, that's it. That's the show. You all excited? High energy today. As always, I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined by this, I don't know, not lovely today. I think the energy is very different.
Curmudgeonly.
It's not hostile.
Cohort of co-hosts.
It's that like post sickness tiredness. At least for me, it's like I'm just got over being sick. I'm better, but I'm also weirdly exhausted, even though I haven't done anything recently.
We all get like that sometimes. All right. It's time to go over the news. There's a little bit of stuff this week. The big thing I want to talk about is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct. I know none of you care, but I care very much. So
I almost care.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not know this was a thing until you said
it. That's fine, Wyatt. This is one for the Xenoblade people.
And I feel bad. I do. But
look, I think many people's reaction to this Direct happening was, not a normal Direct.
In a good way or a bad way?
In a bad way.
I enjoy the concept of the Xenoblade world. I do not enjoy the character design.
Oh, it looks better this time. They're going back to 1's character design and not 2's, which is
I never cared.
a vast improvement.
I love how Alex doesn't like it, and yet this is an improvement.
Well, I think 3's character design is... I don't know if you watched the Direct, Alex.
I didn't. No,
Yeah,
I'm mainly familiar with 2.
Yeah, 2's... I'm with Alex on this. I love 2 as a game. Man, they really needed to tone it back a little bit. Tone back the horny just a tiny bit. Just enough to make it so it's not
a bit
everywhere.
Off the horn.
For those of you Cowboy Bebop fans, picture Faye, but so much worse.
It's just like it was gratuitous. I think that's the way to describe 2. 2 is gratuitous, and its camera angles were also gratuitous.
So
whereas
I'm
1
looking up
never had that
images.
problem. Oh yeah,
You've watched Cowboy Bebop
right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at 3 is a lot more reasonable.
Things we probably shouldn't show on Twitch.
Your characters are enclosed this time.
This is embarrassing.
It's a feature.
Look, if I had the video thing set up, I would cut to the Smash outfits of characters because they make them way less horny and it looks better because it's a better character design.
And then didn't people complain that they were less horny?
No, I think
people did.
I feel like some people did, but I think immediately afterwards people then complained that the Smash outfit wasn't in the base game because the Smash outfit looks better.
Oh, okay.
So, turns out when you have a character that's off-white and they just have, skin everywhere, it looks better when you have, like, a black legging thing or something to set the color off, All right. Time to talk about...
Anyway. I looked at 3 after... Sorry, I looked at 3 right after and I was like, okay.
Yeah, now they're in jackets, they're in, like, streetwear,
More sensible clothing.
It looks like more traditional JRPG clothing. All right,
anyway,
we'll get into that in a minute. First of all, we got a few other things to talk about. Hey, y'all like controllers? Can't have any. Because Microsoft's running out of controllers.
What?
What?
Oh no! Oh, the tech shortage has now reached this level. I see. We are truly in a downward
Stay away
spiral.
from my controller.
So, I think this is still not quite a problem online, but most retailers in every major region are sold out of all Xbox controllers.
Thank
It's a weird
God
thing.
I use PlayStation.
That's happened.
That's a shame because I kind of need a new
Oh
one.
no!
Rest in peace.
Well.
Oh wow! Wait, was the rubber part off of that thumbstick? Is that what I just saw?
Yeah, it wore off.
Wow,
I don't even remember what I was playing. I legitimately don't even remember. It might have been Elden Ring, and it just wore away.
Like that's how you know you're a real gamer when the rubber parts of your thumbstick just
exactly
disappear,
have been destroyed.
Yep.
Ground to dust.
It is more. You can still get them on the Microsoft Store and occasionally on the Best Buy site, but it's just one of those weird hardware shortage things that pops up on news things. You're like, hey, It's just an odd thing to have happened. But it makes sense because Xbox controllers are the go-to for both Xbox and PC people, and they're also a lot cheaper than PS5 controllers, at least generally, and that may not really be the case anymore, but at least in
relative.
the past.
Hey, Xbox doesn't have a lot of controllers. PlayStation doesn't have a lot of consoles. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
What a pairing! What an incredible pair.
Power to the players, is GameStop used to say.
God.
Of course. Yeah, that's the news. We have another Nintendo Direct Mini coming tomorrow. So right after this podcast comes out, in 2 hours after this podcast releases, there will be another Nintendo Direct that is specifically about third-party games. So expect probably, I feel like some Ubisoft stuff is going to make an appearance.
Assassin's
this
Creed
feels like
things.
the time for. No, I think we're going to get Mario Rabbids too showing up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Feels like that time.
For that. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's coming in, especially because there's rumors that the release date for that game is relatively soon.
Yeah, October, right?
Yep. So yeah, lots of things to look forward to with that Direct likely happening. Just keep your expectations in check because it is third party primarily. So do not expect any Nintendo stuff here, which is odd considering Nintendo hasn't announced what they have for the rest of the year. So I think there is still likely a Nintendo Direct on the horizon.
Yeah. This for me is going to be like a bunch of weird like indie JRPG style games or like weird Square remasters being thrown at the screen, and then I'll go, "Oh, do I want to buy a Switch finally? Do I want to buy a Switch?" And then it'll say coming to PC later and I go, "Oh, I don't have to buy a Switch."
Yeah, I don't need to do it yet.
I mean, I will say 5 times.
You describe games that fit perfectly on the Switch as a platform, though, because those are the perfect kind of games for that. No, that's understandable. But what you're saying is like, in general, is like that's a good, it's a good.
Yeah, it's a lot better. It's a lot better than trying to like cram like some crazy, like big open world thing not made by the Breath of the Wild team on like that. That's the recipe for disaster on a Switch, or like a Warriors game. Those are the recipes for disaster on a Switch, where they'll just like run terribly.
Or apparently, Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Yeah, which is perpetually buggy on every platform it has ever released on. They're just keeping the spirit of the original alive, and that it was never completed. So
we want to preserve this game in its original,
completely unfinished state,
to make sure you get the exact same experience as everyone else did.
So that's the news
need to thank us
for this week. Nothing too crazy aside from that. It's been a light week. We did get a confirmation that the Persona 5 edition coming to Xbox and Game Pass is the edition with all the DLC included, which hasn't been available anywhere else. So you don't have to pay for tons of DLC. You get all your fancy little costumes with the game.
All those outfits from those games that 90% of the people who play Persona 5 have never seen before.
Probably never even heard of.
This wasn't really expected, I guess. So you could say you never see it coming.
All right, and on to the next.
I do want to mention, why I mentioned Warriors games. Fire Emblem Three Hopes is getting some good reviews. Having come out, people are pretty happy with this game, and having played the demo of this game, I haven't finished it yet, and I've spent like 3.5 hours playing the demo of this game. It's extremely long. Right? Yeah, on Switch. The demo for this game is very lengthy. It goes through the first 5 chapters of every route, of which there are 3.
Oh wow!
And a chapter is 30 minutes minimum of thing. So it's a lot of content just to sink your teeth into just as a demo, and it's very fun. Yeah. It's a good Warriors game, and it's a better translation of Fire Emblem to the Warriors formula because you have all the Fire Emblem things are still here. You have your social links and your camps and running around and talking to people and doing your thing, and now just the battles are Warriors fights. That's it. That's the thing.
As it should be.
Is the frame rate okay? Because Warriors games usually have a pretty.
It is far better than Age of Calamity.
Okay.
Age of Calamity is one where like the frame rate actually started to impact my having fun in the game. Despite really liking that game, I do think the frame rate in that gets so bad to the point where it just in some missions is near unplayable. There's been some pretty hectic stuff on screen so far, and it has not chugged. The only problem is that it seems to be an unlocked frame rate, and it does not like to stay at the same place. So it's bouncing between like 30 and 45 constantly, which is rough. That does give it some like jittery feelings, but
so, I mean, in some cases, that's almost worse than just having like a consistent.
Yeah, I'll say it's definitely not worse than Age of Calamity, by a fair margin. It looks good. It's I would rather play this game on a Switch Pro, but it doesn't exist, so can't do that.
I saw the trailer with my nephew showed it to me. We're big Fire Emblem fans in different ways. He's more familiar with Three Houses, but he was really excited about it. He was talking about the possibility of it. There might have been like official discussions about it, but there's canon things happening in Three Hopes.
Three Hopes is an alternate time. Three Hopes is, but when you talk about Three Houses, it's already weird because Three Houses has 3 routes, so already the timeline is not like a thing you can follow.
Because opposed to when you had to buy 2 separate games, 3
separate
because
it doesn't end the same way no matter what. Like the world is in very different states depending on what route you do in that game. In Three Hopes is the same way, but it is not the same as the main game.
I'm interested to see how, because there was a weapon discrepancy with one of the characters. I'm interested to see how. I'm probably not going to pronounce any of these right, so I'll just say what the weapon. I'm interested to see how Edelgard gets her bone axe.
Yeah, I'm sure that she will. I actually don't remember how she gets it in the original game. I know I got it. I just don't remember.
I think she has it in the original game, doesn't she?
Well, she might. Because there are quest weapons, which are like these special weapons, but some of the characters start with them.
Dead God or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's all lore stuff, but mechanically they are just special weapons that have a special thing.
And the other 2 characters, Dimitri and the bow guy, already have theirs.
Yeah, Claude.
Dimitri.
Yeah, they have their stuff at the start. I wonder how that's going to work with the Warriors game because I haven't gotten to the loot part of it yet, because loot is always a thing in Warriors games. But yeah, overall very impressed with the start of that game, and I think if you're a fan of Warriors games and a fan of Fire Emblem, you're gonna like it. If you're a fan of just one of the 2, you'll probably like it. If you're a fan of neither, why are you picking this game up?
Yeah.
I don't like either of them.
That's on you.
That's your decision.
Kill 2 birds with one stone.
Because I will definitely say this one assumes you know something about characters. Because there's like some big important stuff that happens in the first 2 missions that will not feel like big important stuff if you have not played Three Houses. Because there's like characters who are not the same.
You did miss one group of people.
Yeah.
If you're still waiting for Advance Wars, welcome to the club.
Hey, Fire Emblem is probably close to Advance Wars comparatively.
Yeah.
It's getting there.
Closest thing you can get for now.
You're not helping. Not helping.
I will say you did make me remember one of the games that I had been playing called Symphony, or not playing, but one I'm looking to pick up during this Steam sale is the Symphony of War. It's a very small scale 1 developer indie game that is like this crazy in-depth tactics war game style after an Advance Wars fantasy type thing. Super cool.
Okay.
Very, very fun. I would encourage you to look up the combat animations because they look awesome.
Okay. What's it called?
Symphony of War: The Nephilim Saga. A lot of words.
Biblical terms for this one.
Oh yeah.
Somebody else has read the Old Testament. Oh. How fancy of you.
It's getting really good reviews. Oh my god.
Yahweh?
Yeah, I've heard it's very good. All right, let's talk about Xenoblade 3 because it happened this week, and I want to talk about it. All right.
You're allowed. This is your show.
The show runs on.
You may talk about it.
You run the show. This is up to you.
Look, I'll say if this episode seems less produced than normal, it's because many things align to mean there was no time to produce the show.
Yes.
So we're just hanging out this time. We're just hanging out, having fun. Yeah, I want to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because there's some really interesting things going on with this game that I think are very exciting. And considering I feel like a lot of people weren't as excited for Chronicles 3 just because of the fact that it isn't like a 10-year gap from the last game. It has the benefit of releasing on the same console as its previous entry, which is a very rare thing in JRPGs now. So, yeah, I'm excited for this, because I think that this Direct took a really good look at how the story works. For people who missed it, the gist of the story in this game is you are playing a group of characters that are part of this section of the world, and this part is they're always at war with each other. Everyone only has a lifespan of 10 years, and then they die. Yep, everyone's a clone that has a lifespan of 10 years.
Oh,
that's the gist of it. Whether or not they're actually clones, but they show people that look like they're in Camino clone pods at one point. So the logical jump there is that the main characters are clones, and everyone else is also clones. And the idea is you got to kill the people to fill your time clock, which is pretty rad. So, like the concept of this game already, is like
you have to kill people to stay alive. Is what you're saying?
We don't know yet. So they say a line during the trailer that's like, "You kill the people to fill a flame clock," which I take to mean.
What does that mean?
Exactly. Well, that's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to go, "What does that mean?" I want to play the game to find out.
Maybe I should not be saying filling flame clock rapidly. that could result in
be very careful with that. But yeah, I think this is a really strong concept for the game. Just as your party has a couple of members that you get like marks after every year that count as a term of military service, and at the end you basically have a suicide ceremony.
That is
where
so
the ruler of your nation comes and like sings you to death, which is like the highest honor you can receive. I love this crazy world.
I'm sorry. The two words suicide ceremony put together. I'm trying to wrap
I forget what they actually call it. It's not. It doesn't feel like that. It's a much more. The visuals of it are a lot more happy.
I want to pick this up for the world building. What's the art style for this game?
It's Xenoblade. It's a Xenoblade game. It's the people that made the Breath of the Wild open world. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it looks good. It's a very good looking game.
Single developer. I was picturing.
Oh no, this is not a single developer.
This is a completely different game. This is Xenoblade. This is like a mainline Nintendo AAA product by Tetsuya Takahashi and Monolith Soft.
Yeah, single person developers.
You're right. Yep.
So one person in a giant ball. It's just.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool. I would encourage people who may not normally be interested to watch at least the trailer from the Xenoblade Direct, because it does a really good job of, I think, selling the setting in a way that might, if you gravitate towards that, Xenoblade has always delivered on the setting. That's the one thing that it has always gotten correct, even in 2.
All the way back to Gears.
All the way back to Gears, yeah.
Those Xeno games.
The settings are so unique and so well handled. There's some people, Brett, spreading some rumors right now that this game might tie into Xenogears.
Yeah, and it's all because that main character has a really long ponytail, just like the guy from Xenogears.
Oh god, yeah,
that is what I've seen it boil down to.
There's a few more.
Than anything.
Someone was going off about how flame clocks were a term in like the gears of Xenogears. I'm like, okay. This means nothing to me because Xenoblade uses the same terminology for stuff.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it turned out from 1 to 2 that the reason they did that is because it was contiguous in the same setting. So it's possible. Weird callback.
From what I know from Xenoblade and Xenosaga, there are a lot of things that are from Gears that like the one specific symbol of I forget
like
whatever like
thing.
Yeah, it's like the golden kind of like this shaped thing. Yeah, that's been there always. It just means a slightly different thing every single. Like there's repetitive. It's like when you watch something by the guy who did
like Final
Evangelion,
Fantasy, you know,
or Final Fantasy. You're gonna see the little things that show up in all of them, and they will. In Final Fantasy, like a Phoenix Down is always a Phoenix Down.
Yep.
But in Evangelion things, I see those telephone lines. I can tell this was directed by the same person. Like that, this feels more along those lines. On those telephone lines to me.
We'll find out, and I'm excited that the opportunity is there to be either surprised or whelmed by this game.
Yes. The fact that rumors exist is a good sign, I'd say.
I'll just say I think it's weird because Xenoblade 2 had a lot of hype because of the fact that Xenoblade 1 had Xenoblade X, which was a follow-up, which not everyone liked. I love that game, but the story is nonsense. It is a nonsense game, comparatively, and is not playable on anything but a Wii U. So, functionally, that game doesn't exist. 2, I think, was a big, like, call to, hey, the Switch is more powerful than people give it credit for. So we're going to do this whole expansive, large-scale JRPG that has like real-time action combat, and you're going to play it on your Switch, and it's going to be great. And it was pretty great. Not the greatest, though. Not as good as Xenoblade 1. Xenoblade 3 is giving me vibes if they realized what they did wrong in 2 and are trying to fix it. Because you can see in the trailer they're not making the same mistakes. They're avoiding a lot of the same pitfalls, especially in character design. That was like a big thing in 2 is you didn't have... Normally, if your game has what we like to call horny character designs, you will have other character designs to offset that. Xenoblade 2 was all horny all the time. There was no non-horny character design. It was all of them. So you didn't have a lot to change from.
I will say, I personally am not someone that cares about this specific instance, but also for the character designers, that what a weird one-off thing. Like, these people did not design characters previously or after that looked like that. It's just weird. I don't know why they did that.
And it wasn't the one thing I can say in its quasi defense. I am not defending this. It wasn't just one particular set of characters. To quote Star Wars, not just the men, but the women and the children too.
Oh, God.
And look, I'm all for some hot boys in my games, but I would just like them to stand out when they're there, and that requires that to not be all of them, you know?
Yes, this is
you gotta tone it so that when the character that is like that, otherwise Faye Valentine doesn't matter. If Faye is every character in Cowboy Bebop, Faye doesn't matter anymore. But she's not, so it has a lot of impact. So I think there's a lot of lines to walk here, and hopefully they walk them well. I think the direct has shown that they know at least what they need to avoid. That's good.
Crossed.
You can also transform into mechs in this game. That's rad. You transform with.
I'm surprised it took
character.
you this long to mention that.
Well, because we went on the whole character design talk.
If I only have 10 years to live, I better be able to transform into a mech.
Yeah, you grab the hand of your partner and you transform into a mech, and they all have 2 forms. There's like 6 total that you get, and you can transform with your party members into mechs. That's rad, really cool. One of them does a surfboard on a skate on a sword, and you stab the enemy by surfboarding on them, which is pretty wonderful. Rad. So to see that.
That's sick.
The very appropriate use of radical in this.
It's got a class system, and it's not just you get your party members classes. No, they have a bunch of other classes that you can also get. So yeah, I think they're doing a lot of really cool stuff here. It looks like they're taking a lot of the very open gameplay elements of X and aiming to transport those into the main series, which is very exciting. So yeah, I think this looks really good. I think I'm very happy with what we're being shown here. And I'm ready to probably cry, because that's what Xenoblade does. So
that surfboard sword sounds promising. That feels like some train suplexing.
Oh, I will show you the clip of it after this, Alex, because it is very good. Yeah, I just think it's a cool looking game. It's just weird it got advertised this way. I think it's interesting because Nintendo hasn't shown a lot else off, so they're like really riding on this for their summer thing, which is interesting to me. All right, let's talk about video games that aren't Xenoblade or Nintendo, unless you want to talk about Nintendo.
I can't.
I can't
promise.
I can't promise that one. Why?
That one's up to you.
I guess I'm just speaking for myself. Actually, wait, I've been playing Dragon Age. Never mind.
Yep. There we go. All right. So, hey, I talked for a while. Someone pick a game they want to talk about that they've been playing, or a Next Fest demo.
Oh, specifically from Next Fest, or like anything?
Pull a thing from a hat, Wyatt.
Okay,
I've not been playing any Next Fest.
I've been playing Dragon Age Inquisition because I've never technically finished the Dragon Age games before, and I wanted to do it. Even though technically speaking, I still haven't finished 2 because my save got corrupted and messed up because of weird DLC, so I never got to finish it, and I could only learn about the ending through Dragon Age Keep. But whatever, doesn't matter. I am here. I am in Inquisition, and it's pretty good. Moving on. No, I'm kidding. No.
It's a game.
It definitely feels like an apology for 2 for people who didn't like 2. I enjoyed 2, not for my own reasons, but people missed the scope of Origins, because Origins was on this grand epic scale, and 2 is like in one town, and it feels, until the very end, it feels like a lot of what you're doing is very insignificant and like, who cares? Which is kind of what I liked about it, but anyway, that's not the point. Um, Inquisition is massive. There's a bunch of like open-ended areas. It's not an open world, but there's a lot of big areas to kind
It's
of
very
move around.
MMO-y in the way the
Yeah,
areas are designed.
that's a good way to put it. And it involves like every single faction and splinter group under the sun you could possibly imagine. It goes to both Ferelden and Orlesia. It's everywhere. And it's I think that scale can kind of be its worst enemy at times, because there's a lot of like, you're running this Inquisition and you gotta get power and influence, and that can get very grindy. It felt like they wanted to take the what's it called, like faction power or something from Mass Effect. Do you remember what that system was called, Ryan? It was something like that.
The like war supply.
Your war table stuff.
War
right?
preparedness.
War or yeah, war army readiness or something, which is
For funds?
basically not really. It's more like, how big is your fleet? How many allies do you have? How many resources do you have to fight this oncoming threat? And in Mass Effect, it was really, really cool, because felt like everything you did was like either increasing your ship in some way, which could then affect who lives and dies at the end and stuff like that. And like, it could affect this character and this character. Here, it just feels like a stat that you have to like get up so you can go to other areas and stuff. It doesn't have the same kind of like impact to it. And so it just feels really grindy, because you're kind of running around and like picking up resources and then saying, oh, I'm going to move these over to some sort of geological survey that will get us a little bit of extra power. And that's kind of it. It's not really that exciting. But outside of that, it's the story itself is kind of weak, and it's just like, end of the world, go fix it. It's not the most engaging plot in the world, but it is held together because I really like this cast of characters. They kept characters, they kept fan favorite characters. So Liliana's back, Varric's back. Um, a lot of people you recognize. I think Hawk and Morrigan show up at some point too, for those of you who actually like Hawk. And a bunch of new characters, which I love. Cassandra's really interesting. Vivian is like this pro circle mage, which I found quite fascinating, because, and this doesn't make any sense if you're not in the world of Dragon Age, but anyway, it's, the circle is like, hey, mages are dangerous. We're going to keep them secluded here and kind of teach them the ways of magic and make sure they don't get seduced by blood magic and dark evil stuff. And some circle, and in every instance that you've been to a circle, it's like these mages are treated really poorly. They're not treated like human beings. And so especially in the second game, the theme was like, oh, mages deserve their freedom. And this mage that you meet is like, no, we're horrible, we're dangerous, and also not every circle is exactly the same, and we're also treated differently depending on which circle we're in. We need to be kept in line, and our role is to serve humanity. So it's a really, or serve other races, right? So it's this really interesting swap. It's not something you expect from a mage, and I thought that was really interesting. Aren't enough character or companion quests yet. There's one where you have to take out Red Lyrium for Varric, and that's kind of it.
Have you gotten to Skyhold yet, Wyatt?
No.
Because that was my other big problem with this game, is that you don't get to like the main selling point of the war readiness stuff for like 10, 20 hours.
Yeah, and again, that's the scale coming back into play, because you can't really do anything unless you spend a certain amount of power. And again, it doesn't feel like you're building up an army to something. It feels like you're increasing this stat that will allow you to continue. It doesn't really feel like you're building up this Inquisition. Sometimes you see visual changes in Haven, which is where you are before Skyhold, and that's kind of neat. But yeah, I think that's the biggest problem I have, is just, it's supposed to be you like putting together this massive army, and maybe that gets better if I'm at Skyhold, but for right now, it doesn't really feel like that. But like I said, the characters are great, at least so far. The combat is clunky and weird, but also
Good
very like
descriptors.
but also very satisfying. Like I don't know.
It's like
'cause
halfway between an action-y system and a more
yeah.
D&D type system of like ability cooldowns and stuff like that, which is
I say this in both a good way and a bad way. It feels like an early prototype of Final Fantasy VII Remake combat.
yeah.
And I mean that in a good way because I like that setup a lot and they have a lot of that stuff there. But I also mean it in a bad way because it's clunky.
And at the
It's
start, you have like
very
one
clunky.
ability that you can use like
Yeah.
once every minute, which is extremely
What?
slow
Yeah.
paced.
But once you start unlocking more stuff, it's really cool. Like there's an ability where you can throw out like a chain at someone and then pull them towards you, and then you can like link that together with this crazy heavy attack. And then there's an ability where if you like hold it down, it's like a counter, and then you can do damage to them if they try and hit you. So like you can start combining cool stuff together once everyone starts getting some more abilities. But yeah, early on it's like heavy attack, regular, heavy attack. Like it's very
Yeah.
boring, but
yes, the
once you
combo.
but once you start getting stuff together, it's more abilities and you start synergizing things, it's a lot of fun. Crafting stuff is really interesting too because you can craft the same piece of armor, but using different materials will give you different like stats and stuff, so you can make it for a specific character, which is really fun.
Most of like
Yeah.
Monster Hunter-y stuff there.
Yeah, it's cool.
Love me a good crafting system.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. Also they have they have a thing called what's it called, like the Infinite Mirror or something, where you can go back in and like change and like recustomize the look of your character's
Yeah.
face and his voice and stuff,
That's
which is
always
cool.
good.
That's
Good.
always nice.
Something that is needed in every game where you can customize your character.
Yeah.
And it's justified here because like it's magic, whatever. It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
whatever. Just do it.
Yeah. No, overall I like it. It's a little bloated, it's a little clunky, but it's got good characters and I want to do their companion quests, and that's what keeps me going in a good BioWare game is good characters and good companion quests. So,
Makes sense.
and the
It's
music
also got
is
some cool dragon fights.
cool dragon fights, and the music is fantastic. It's the same guy that does the music for Castlevania, the TV show. If you've ever
Oh
heard
yeah.
for that guy, Trevor Morris, I think his name is. Fantastic.
That's good stuff.
Very good. All right, who else has got something?
It's a game that I haven't. Well, there's two things that I can talk about. One of them I can't because it's one of the Game Pass games that I finally got to.
We'll do that eventually. Don't worry.
That will probably be next week. Barring anything crazy happen, the Game Pass Games Club will be next week. Episode.
Not on the Sunday, right? That's usually a Monday or a Tuesday deal.
It'll be Sunday. It'll replace the normal episode unless we have time to do two separate episodes. But
Doubt.
with Wyatt and I's schedules now, that is a doubt.
Yeah.
Press X
Anyway.
to doubt.
Anyway, the game that I've been that I revisit every once in a while and get hooked on, and then not burnt out, but I've explored the depth of what they've updated. Dead Cells. Dead Cells came up with new updates. One of which I am currently waiting to download. The Queen's something. So assuming it adds another boss. Don't want to spoil.
It's got like a cool couple of new areas and stuff.
Yeah. They added from the last time I played. They also added incentivized biomes, which double the amount of cells and gold you can get from killing enemies. And the way that works is that if you constantly go on a certain path that you visit not as often will become incentivized. So you explore the what the world has to offer. There's that. The most recent so barring that update downloading or DLC, the update was they added a couple of nice accessibility options to deal with photosensitivity and game feel and things like that, and visual impairedness.
Yeah, I've also had a lot of fun with Dead Cells relatively recently. I loaded that up on my Switch and was playing that. It's a good time. I think it's one of the better attempts to do a randomized Metroidvania progression that we've had, because it's a very hard genre to randomize, and most of them tend to lose the soul of the Metroid map of being able to like backtrack well. And Dead Cells is usually good at letting you do that. So
I've really been enjoying whenever like a build comes up, because I have a custom game going, but I don't like insanely limit my gear or always choose starting gear because I want to mix it up sometimes. I really enjoy poison builds right
absolutely.
now. I love that blow gun, the blow dart. So, critical hits if you're behind an enemy, then I usually pick stats where it's okay. If you're close to an enemy, you do 45% more damage with range stuff. There's now, that's another thing. There's like a little mutation center in the very starting area that I figured out. If you pick up the weapons before you go there, you can't pick up mutations, so you have to pick a mutation before you see what the weapons are.
Yeah, you pick the
But
weapons, that starts the run.
yeah. But one of the but there's a bunch of different cool modifiers that you can pick up, but they don't let you pick up the next boss cell. Which it's been long enough that haven't gotten one that I forget exactly what they do. I think gathering a boss cell. I think it's finishing the final boss, and it enables you to increase the difficulty of runs and the frequency of certain enemies. Um, but one of the mutations that I like uh, makes you immune to poison, and poison also heals you. And in my custom game, so so you're just having a wonderful time in the two sewer levels that there are, because you never have to use a healing flask. Um, and then I love to pick up the poison cloud abilities, or any deployables that also make a poison cloud upon killing enemies or me getting hit, so I never run out of health or have to use a healing flask.
And some like poison arrow stuff in there.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Brett, I saw you
Fun stuff.
ready and waiting.
I did, and then I turned it into a yawn so that I didn't look stupid.
Smooth.
But nonetheless, I admitted it, so that it immediately undid any success that it would
Look
have
at what
had.
you've done.
Yep.
However, I have been playing for the last, I don't know how many months this equates to, but the in-game time says somewhere around 140 hours of Persona 3 FES, whatever that stands for. It is done now. I
Nice.
finished it, and all I'll say is that I immediately I had to take like a
Take a
30-minute
walk.
shower. I like stood in the shower, and I just like the clip of Vegeta just like staring up in the rain. That was me for like a solid half hour of just like, man,
Atlas
that
JRPGs,
was
JRPGs will do that to
Your
you.
mouth is open, and then the water is like coming into your mouth. And
It's
it fills up your mouth, and it's dripping.
yeah. It's like a cool sound. But yeah, I anytime that I talk about a game like this, like Wild Arms 5 or some other like random crap that's trapped on the PS2 and will never be playable on anything else, I'd be sad. But no, because next year Persona 3 is going to be on Game Pass, so I can just be like, "Oh, you should go play it because you should. This is really good." And if you're afraid of how long it took me to finish it, you can be happy in the prospect that the version being put on all the new things is the portable version, which probably honestly would cut my playtime in like, I don't know, like 2/3 or something, like
Yeah, but you
reasonably
see the
chunky
portable
like that.
version, you probably want to play twice because the protagonists are very different and have different things.
Or you could just play only the male protagonist, because the things that the female protagonist does to the story are disagreeable, to say the least. So just finish the
Oh
male protagonist one
no.
and be fine, and that's it.
Oh no.
Let's just say there are stakes and like bad things that happen in the normal route.
But Brett, what if I'm vegetarian?
Shut up!
Just about to ask if they were medium rare steaks.
Shut up!
Not knowing anything about this game, I am now horrified.
God.
It's very good.
It's very good. The story that they've crafted, from what I understand, they actually had a group of psychologists and psychoanalysts and therapists on the development team when making not only like the story but like the systems and everything of I think this and Persona 4 also. But it really shows here because they know exactly when to pull the rug out from under whatever's happening and just make something terrible happen. And you feel so bad because like I don't think I've played a game before where the characters didn't like there's a screen in between me and them, and they're made out of little squares, and I'm made out of amoebas and things. But like they didn't feel like video game characters that were written. They really felt like actual like they were written so well that they felt like actual like people, which is very important because social links with the characters is a very important part of the game. This is the first Persona game that had social links as a part of it. So like, if you really like this archetype of creature because, screw you Pokemon, Shin Megami Tensei came first, then you can better fuse and upgrade this archetype of creature if your social link with this person is a higher level. And you do that with interacting with this person. If they're, the opposite gender from you, you could take them on dates because that is the limit of, I don't know, 2006 or whenever it came out. Uh, but all of it's really, really, really well written. Like the characters that would just be like dumb class clown level stuff was like actually funny and touching when things got serious, and the things that were serious the whole way through are like incredible. Like
And handled very
I
well. That's I think another
handled
important note.
extremely well. Yeah, like
Why do
they
I feel
were
like
like
that's too rare nowadays?
because it legitimately is. I mean, it's difficult to see any AAA game actually successfully handle themes of like mental illness and depression and dissatisfaction with society in like an actual way and not just like we're gonna rebel but like every single day you can go downstairs and you can watch the news for a couple text boxes that say some horrible thing that's happening that always ends with pain go away every single day. If you wanted to do that, you can read that every single day.
And if you're the type of
But
person that
does
plays a
does
Persona
the
game, you will.
does
Yes.
the character say pain go away, or does the
No, that's the
newscaster say
slogan.
pain go away?
That's the
Oh,
slogan of the newscaster. It's incredible how
oh,
consistent it is almost the whole way through with this type of message, which I feel like is also if we ever do another, like cultural like development with games kind of thing like that. I also feel like that is a very Japanese thing of just like having
Absolutely.
one message or theme and literally everything in the anime or game has to do with that and like nothing strays
Has
from
to
it.
loop back in.
Exactly, yeah. Um, I really can't recommend it enough. I mean, even like people can like probably construe ways about how this game is really hard because SMT, but it's really not. It's you just got to use your brain. I don't know. It was difficult in parts because the version that I played that no longer exists on anything is the version where you cannot control any of your party except for the protagonist. So you just kind of got to hope that everybody else
Gotta
does their
believe.
job. Yeah. But at the same time, on paper
Just good enough.
it kind of sounds like a really bad thing, but it works well enough. And I think for me also because I am this kind of person that gets totally sucked into like whatever thing I'm like playing or watching. Like my suspension of disbelief, like once you get me, I'm pretty much hooked if you can keep up that like standard that you got me with in the first place. So like, oh, these aren't annoying annoying AIs computers that just do their own thing. This is like, oh, Junpei missed his shot. I can't. He never does that. Junpei always gets a crit. Why didn't he crit? Oh my god, Junpei, what's wrong with you, man? And then when like someone else does, like, oh my god, great job, Koromaru, good boy, because he's a dog. And it's like, it gets you into this mindset of like, yeah, you can't control them because they're doing their own thing. The game even says like towards the beginning, like, oh yeah, you might not be able to talk to me every single day because I'm my own person with my own life and I like to be alone, jerk. It's like, yeah, okay, sure, I get it.
you're not allowed to be me. What?
Well, Brett, did you know that Persona 3 actually has a sequel that you can play right now?
It does.
And I'm not talking
It
about
does
Persona
indeed.
4. I'm talking about Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, where the Persona 3 characters come back and continue the story.
They do. They do.
Go play the fighting
It's-
game.
I'll watch a cutscene or two. I'm not gonna buy it because it's a fighting game, and I can't gel with it. But from what I understand,
it's a very
the
good fighting game.
from what I understand, the fighting
As
game is
are
very
all the
good, and
games in
also
Persona. Persona's a safe bet, pretty much whichever one you go
pretty
for.
much, yeah. Honestly, all the way back to 1, because I've been watching a friend play through Persona 1, and I feel like it gets, a lot of what I previously assumed was like due criticism because it's the first one in a series. It's from like the 90s, so of course it's gonna be clunky and old.
Yeah.
But like I was watching a buddy go through it, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I used to think this game was stupid, but now I'm playing it again, and it's actually like completely fine. There's like nothing really
I think it's
wrong
a
or
lot of
bad about
people
it.
that
It's
are
just the
into
first one."
Persona, because Persona is a game that tends to appeal a lot to, I think, people that are growing up probably in high school and having some kind of like trouble or
Yeah,
having
of course.
in that state of everyone goes through in middle school or high school where you're kind of just in a fugue state. Everyone experiences this type of thing when you're a kid. And I think Persona is a game that tends to speak to those people. And I think that means a lot of people played 3 and 4 at that age on a portable system,
Yeah.
and going back to play 1 is a hard ask for someone who is not like 20 years old.
Totally, yeah, because and I think like the mood between like the different eras of the series is pretty different too. Like 3 and 4
Yeah.
definitely have especially 3 because that's the one that I've played, but from what I know about 4, they have that like coming of age, very
They all
accurate to
do.
what it feels like to be in, that like growing up through middle school like situation, but like 1 and 2 are about how rumors can affect reality and like all those like different
Mhm.
like kind of more like
They're a bit more
psychological
Shin Megami
society things.
Tensei side of the
Yeah,
fence.
so they're a little there's a little bit of a split there, so I can understand that too.
Yeah.
Besides like the gameplay clunkiness, but
But I
I
can't hardly
really
recommend
like
you, Brett. I really want to see your opinions on Persona 4. Because
yes
that's my personal
someday
favorite. Persona 5, when that comes to Game Pass, you got to play it because
I will.
Persona 4 is my favorite game in the Persona series. Persona 5 is by far the best game in
Mm.
that series.
I don't know. I'm very picky with these things, Ryan. You know that I love my
Dude, it plays
PS2
so
aesthetics
well.
very much.
I think being a fan of any turn-based combat system, Persona 5 is one of the best.
Mm.
And on that fact alone, gameplay wise, I think it really sells itself, especially Royal. But yeah,
And it and it probably does say something too that like I'm not into turn-based combat, but everyone is like, no, 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 no. You'll like Persona. We know you
It's
hate
yeah.
turn-based combat, but you will like
yeah,
Persona.
you'd probably
That
like
that
Persona
is
5.
Okay.
That is the other thing for me is because I'm a jackass that I genuinely do. I see Persona 5 and I go, ugh, everybody else already likes that game. Where's
Oh,
the
My
deep cuts? Show me the deep
you
cuts.
Hey,
hipster.
cringe.
sometimes, Brett, you
You
gotta
cringe
realize so many
hipster.
people that say they like Persona 5 have never finished the game.
I know exactly that's why the joke exists. That yeah, I love Persona 5. I watched a 500-hour YouTube playthrough of it. I've never played it myself because it's accurate. It's true.
I
Like, I still
prefer
haven't finished
to.
Royal. I finished the initial Persona 5 and loved it. Royal, I got halfway through and was just like, I'll finish this later. It's really good, but
well, because
Understandable.
you
that game
already
is
I'll
like
finished.
admire it from
200
afar.
hours.
Well,
Yeah,
because you,
it's
I
just
mean,
a
you
long
finished
game.
5, so that's
Well, Royal is
understandable.
pretty different.
Is
Royal
it?
does have some
Okay.
major
changes a lot.
differences. Yeah. New characters really cool in Royal and some really fun side stuff, but yeah, it's a very unique game in that they released essentially the Monster Hunter Ultimate Edition with a huge story expansion afterwards, except you can't just continue the game from the last one because it ended.
Oh,
And so
Mm.
you got to play the whole game again if you want to play Royal, which is a lot. It's very fun, but it's a lot. This game's just
It's
so
a big
long,
undertaking.
and I also want to
Yeah.
finish Shin Megami Tensei 5. So
Yeah, I need to snag that in some way, shape, or form because I gotta say, I was like, man, Soul Hackers 2 is coming out in what, like August or something. I don't want to
yeah,
get burnt out on not only the Drew Pigs, but also just SMT in general. Like I don't want to get burnt out. I really like this franchise so far from the 3 games of it that I've played. I
yeah.
don't want to get burnt out. Immediately after finishing Persona 3, I've started Strange Journey, and I've shown no signs of stopping. I have been hooked. I
Well,
genuinely.
this is what happens with Persona. This is how you finish Persona games: is they get you in a fugue state until you finish them, and then you realize that a month has passed and you've played nothing else.
Exactly. I used to watch Game Grumps, and one of the things that Danny used to say is that when he had like a 2-year period in his life where he was playing, I think it was like Morrowind, and he was just high all the time. Like he was just out of his mind all the time because he was in like a really bad place in his life, and all he would do was just like do that and play Morrowind. And so when he would go outside and like buy a sandwich or something, he would see like the success fail like UI of the conversation on the screen. And because I just got finally a new job after getting out of like escaping the not being able to get hired in anywhere I actually wanted to state. And I'm just meeting all these new people, and I'm just like, oh, my social link with this person. I hope it's doing well. And it's just it is totally one of those. Like I totally got completely sucked in, and now it's done. And it's just I need more. I need more.
Right, you got 2 more of the mainline ones and a couple more
I know.
good side entries.
If you don't play it for long enough, the UI starts to leave your peripheral vision.
Hey, at least the UI is different in every one, so you can get a new UI burned into your brain every.
They'll all overlap, and I'll be blind.
That happened with me in Halo Infinite. Like I was playing enough of it where I would go outside, and then I thought I saw like the health bar at the top.
You see like the little UI like glow when you can grapple to something, and you go, oh, I can't reach it.
I like turn around because I thought I saw a grappling hook pickup like right in my peripheral.
God.
That's
I don't know. Sometimes I'll see red flashes in my vision, and I go, "Oh shit, what hit me?"
Yeah,
yeah, with the directional impact.
Sometimes I think I can hear the AI Lumu just kind of like talking about whatever.
All right. So I do want to talk while we still got some time about some Steam Next Fest stuff, because some of these indie games are really cool. And there's a few that I wanted to mention. So I played a few.
I played a lot of bad ones. I took notes on a lot of bad ones.
All the
oh no!
I already shouted out Metal Hellsinger. Metal Hellsinger rocks.
I've actually played Metal Hellsinger. And it was awesome.
It's great.
I'm gonna say this: it was awesome. I don't think a rhythm FPS is gonna hold my attention enough for me to want to buy the whole game. But what I did play in that demo was awesome.
Yeah, for people that are into rhythm games, I think
way.
that game's gonna be great.
Yeah. No, that was super cool. It took a while for my brain to like kind of adjust, but
Same.
No, it was kind of rad, and I loved the like protagonist, like the main character design.
Yeah,
I thought it was awesome.
What's one of the bad ones you played? What bad games did you play? So we can end on good notes.
Right. Okay. So this is going to be 2 games wrapped in one, right? Because they're both tied to the same theme. One of them is great, and one of them is terrible. And I kind of don't want to compare the two. One of them is not a Next Fest game. One of them is. I kind of don't want to compare these two because it's not even fair. But with a group of friends, I've been getting back into Sea of Thieves recently. And so for Steam Netflix, I played Pirates Bay. Because I'm like, I need more pirate games. Like I think we can all agree there is a drought of like good pirate games, especially single player pirate games, right? I think most people would agree with that. So I was like, okay, this kind of like, low poly, like single player open world pirate thing, this could be kind of neat.
Have you played Assassin's Creed 4, Wyatt?
It's one of my favorite games, but we're not.
Wyatt, he's played an Assassin's Creed game? What planet are you from?
I don't know. I'm so out of it.
First game I ever played on a PS4. It holds a lot of Anyway, so yeah, Pirates Bay. I'm gonna start with the positives first. Let's see.
It's one of those.
Pleasing enough, low poly visuals.
These are I don't want to say this for certain because I don't. In case this is the devs' hard work, I'm sorry, but this looks exactly like the Polygon low poly assets that you can get on the Unity store, which are really well made.
With all of these demos, I don't want to be too mean. That being said,
here we go.
I think the other note that I wrote was like fairly ambitious for a small scale project.
Is that a nice way of saying scope?
So I broke the game in the first like 15 minutes because what happens is they start you off on like a populated island, right? And it's like 1,000 gold, and they're like, okay, you pick up a mission for 1,000 gold, and then go off on your thing. And they're like, oh, but we're not going to give you any missions without a sword. And I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. So I go off and I grab a sword, and the cheapest thing that they had was like 1,000 gold. So then I come back, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna offer you these quests, but you have to pay for them in order to accept them." But because I spent all of my gold on a sword, I didn't have any gold to spend on getting a mission to get more gold. So I was like, "All right." So what I decided to do was hop on my ship and then sail around to see if I could just find like a side quest or a random treasure chest or something.
And I will preface this by saying, so looking from it, this game is extremely early in development. Like,
yes,
very, very early.
No. I understand, and which is why I don't want to be too mean. I'm going blow by blow of what happened. Okay.
Yep.
So
Hopefully, a lot
after
of it will get
traveling,
improved.
exactly, because again, there is a drought of single player pirate games, and I want more out there.
This is a multiplayer game, Wyatt.
But you could also play it in single player, which is what I did, because I wanted to see if it would be a good single player pirate game. That's what I want.
The thing that I always get concerned at is I see multiplayer open world, and that immediately thrusts me off into a different dimension.
But I saw that it had single player, and like I said, I want more single player pirate games, so whatever.
Absolutely.
So after looking around for a bit, I couldn't find anything to get more gold. So I had to restart because I couldn't accept any quests to get more gold.
Oh.
That is when I discovered in the inventory menu, if you select your melee weapon slot, which is empty, there is this magical other screen that pops up that has a wooden sword in there for you. It is not equipped. You are not told that you have it. So then I equipped this free wooden sword, and then I finally accepted a quest, and I'm off on my way. Controls are very, very clunky. Walking around is mostly fine, but it's third person, and the camera's way too close. And trying to fight people was a nightmare because, like, if they were on a different plane than you, then like attacks wouldn't register, and it was just kind of a mess. And that made me sad because I want more pirate games. I've been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves, and that game is in a great state right now. I love Sea of Thieves, and it made me sad. So, yeah.
You talking about this has made me want to swing a cutlass around.
I know, because we need an outlet for our pirate, dreams. We don't.
I'm still stunned that Ubisoft never just made Sid Meier's Pirates and the Black Flag engine. It stuns me that they just never did just that.
Now they've waited too long, and now it's going to be too late. I'm scared for them.
They're making Skull and
Bones. Exactly. They keep careening toward this horrible fate, and they won't stop. They keep going faster. It's going to be terrible.
And think about it this way: this is a game that was designed around one specific part of a game from 2013, and then it's just been in development hell ever since. Like. If that doesn't spell disaster, I don't know what does, honestly.
Do we know a single point in time when Ubisoft has not doubled down on a horrible decision?
Yeah. I want to give them a little bit more credit than that, but in recent years, not so much.
I'm not saying they can't make good ones. They can. But they double down on horrible decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. They did kind of get rid of the loot system in favor of a different one between Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Valhalla. Whether it was better or not is up for debate, but it was different because people were complaining about it. So
at least they tried something different.
They did. Again, whether that was successful or not is a different discussion. But
now Valhalla just has the problem of I don't feel like I ever need to get another item ever because I like the starting perks, and so I just don't.
Yeah.
I never use anything new.
And so my heart did sink because, multiplayer pirate adventure games, Sea of Thieves has got that on lock. It's going to take something really special, I think, to kind of steal that game's thunder, especially in the state that it's in right now. Because I've been going through like the Pirates Life, like Pirates of the Caribbean story stuff, and it's been really cool. You get to like walk around the Flying Dutchman and the Pearl and all the stuff.
Ooh.
It's great. They have a lot of the classic music. The guy they get to do the Jack Sparrow impression is great. Sea of Thieves is great. If you have Game Pass, go play Sea of Thieves. It's really, really fun. But yeah, Pirates Bay, really early in development. I think there's a lot of potential there. But for the demo that they gave us, I was not impressed yet. But there is potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the nicest way I can put that for a game that I broke in like the first 15 minutes. So
yeah,
moving on.
I get that. That is always the thing with these. There's a fine line to walk with indie games. I think a lot of indie games intentionally aim for some level of jank, because there's a line of like acceptable jank where your game is a little bit janky, but people won't care, and you saved a ton of time making the game. Or maybe you want to mimic the feeling of something like a PS1 game, and at that point, you're doing something different, and people are going to complain either way. No matter what you do.
And again, it's put in this unfortunate position of I've been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves, so that was in the back of my head the whole time.
Yeah.
And after that, I played Metal Hellsinger. So
it got sandwiched.
It just
yeah,
not a fair situation for it to be in. But here's the thing: you're releasing this for people to play. You're not charging it, to be fair, but you are releasing it a demo of it on Steam.
Yeah.
And so I think any criticism that goes towards it in its current state is completely justified because it's on Steam. You're not paying for it, but it's there. And it's good to get that feedback as long as it's constructive and not, asshole nitpicks and just people being jerks.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting thing because I think a lot of these games wanted the exposure that comes with Steam Next Fest. Some of them were probably not ready for it. And that can be a big mistake. And you have to kind of confront the point then of, okay, well, if I want the exposure from this, now I have to wait a full year until the next one. And it's a hard choice to make as a dev, but I think a lot of the time, if it's not like going to financially ruin you, waiting is often the better option.
I will say too,
massive financial strain can happen from that. So
I will say too, the other Next Fest game that I wanted to talk about was also bad, and maybe we'll get around to more people and come back around to me.
Well,
but that was just a straight up like asset flip thing.
At the end of the trailer for this, the ship is sailing away from an atomic explosion.
Is that right?
It's probably, I think it's using assets to get the feeling they want because it's very early from
but
what
I will
I'm
say
getting.
This, if they're asset flipping stuff, it's all consistent within its own art style. And maybe that's because it's all from one.
And I want to clarify, if they are using those asset packs, I don't have a problem with that. It's just sometimes you hit a point where you recognize the look of something. And a lot of indie games use these polygon assets and then they all look the same, which becomes a problem because then you have people going like, well, is it related to this game? And I hated this game. They'll see the art style and be like, oh, I saw it in this bad game and it wasn't good. So, yeah, I think it's a thing to be aware of.
And like I said, it does become an issue when you're asset flipping stuff with completely different art styles and it just becomes a mess.
Yeah.
Like I said, maybe we'll let other people go, but I have one on this list that I want to talk about that's even worse than Pirates Bay. So,
oh my,
right?
Oh no.
Okay, so I want to bring up a little game that's a boomer shooter. I'm not the biggest boomer shooter guy, but I do like them. And Celico is one of the best I've played in a very long time. It is a GZ Doom engine boomer shooter that is originally was like a free mod for something, and then they were like, hey, we could charge money for this, and so they decided they would, and it's really good. This is an extremely good boomer shooter. The weapons feel great, the environments are incredibly detailed and very good, the music's great, the sound effects are fantastic. It's a really, really solid thing, and I'm very excited to see where this goes in the future, because a lot of the demo is relatively sizable because the game is very open-ended. its levels are huge and like very labyrinth-like, so there's a lot to see in this one demo. And yeah, it's just a really good showcase for this game, and the setting of like the space station that's got an AI and things are starting to come down to hunt you down for whatever reason, which is a very fun premise. The first bit is like
mod?
Hmm?
Is it a System Shock mod?
No, it's GZ Doom. It's based on the old Doom game engine.
How do you spell the name of it?
SELACO. Celico. Demo still available on Steam. The full release is planned in 2022-55.
Nice.
That's the release date right now. As a nice little
it.
joke. I like that. Yeah, it's from what I understand, this game's pretty far along in development and is chugging very well. So, yeah, I think if what is in this showcase here is representative of the full game, some minor nitpicks is stuff like, I don't like caps lock being the open your log button. I don't want to press that button ever when I'm playing a video game. And caps lock is your open, because you have tab, which is like your map and like menu stuff. Then you have like a menu that is this really cool UI of all the information you have and all the things you find. There's a ton of lore to find out about the world, and like different powers that you are planning to get later that are in that menu. And you press caps lock to open it, which is minor nitpick. Don't like that at all.
It's a classic case of too many things.
You can just change
not
it.
enough buttons.
But I wish it was not on that button to begin with. Yeah.
This art style reminds me of like being very up close to voxels.
Yeah, it's very good. In things like the guns, this game runs incredibly well. The frame rate's extremely good, but your guns reload at a set frame rate because it's like old school animation sprite sheets. And so you get this really cool like moment where you're moving really fast. Your gun is doing like this 6-frame reload animation over the course of like a second, and it's a really cool like visual mix that you see there.
It does visually kind of remind me of Proteus and the way that game handled it.
Yeah, I think what I honestly get the most from the visual style of this is the System Shock remake, which is why I think Alex was mentioning System Shock.
Yeah,
it's got the same color palette. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what this turns into, because there's a lot of hinting towards a bigger thing going on in the demo, where it's starting to hint towards like maybe there'll be NPCs. There's like professional voice actors are supposed to be in here, so there's a lot of things hinting towards the game being structured very differently from your average boomer shooter. And if this is a boomer shooter, you don't shoot anything for the first couple minutes. You start out and it's like a stealth game because you have to go find a gun somewhere.
Ooh.
And,
which
like, might piss off boomer
shooters.
shooter fans. Because if they're not shooting anything in the first 5 seconds, they get a little upset.
I'm a fan of boomer shooters and stealth games.
That's the thing. Boomer shooter fans aren't 10, they're like 50. So they have patience. they can wait 5 seconds before picking up a gun. And I think also it's interesting because I feel like we've gotten past this horrible zone of FPS games where they were all like unremarkable and the same and really oversaturated in terms of being like in the market or whatever. Like it was a horrible a horrible time for FPS games, saved by like Titanfall 2 and the indies, pretty much. Like we have all these classically inspired boomer shooter games coming out that all put their own like spin on it. And it's it's proof that like GZ Doom is like how old? But people have just mastered it at this point. Like there are things that you can do in GZ Doom that if you tried to run it on the computers it was originally built for, they would explode and you would die because it would simply be too incredible for those old computers.
Shrapnel.
But it's just people, those Doom mods, man, like those modding scenes, people just keep them up and they turn eventually vestigially into projects like this, and I love to see it. This is why the indie scene is there. I love it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting game that I think is going to do really well when it comes out. Yeah, it's a very good thing. The only complaint I had about the level design at one point is you hit towards the end of the demo, you hear like this character that has been like hunting you, finally stumble into you and start to like chase you down. Is the premise that I was getting But what actually happens is the level kind of like shunts you back out towards an area you have been, and expects you to run a direction and confront this enemy in this big like lobby area. Problem is the map is very wide and very open, and there's not, because you're constantly backtracking and turning around almost Metroidvania style, you don't really have a way to know what is the intended path, because the map doesn't tell you, at least as of right now. So this like intense moment for me got really weird because I turned around and like ran away because I thought I had to like run from something because the game had already done like a run from something thing. So I was like, okay, I gotta run from this thing that's chasing me. So I went down and started running, and then realized it's not chasing me. I need to go confront it. And so I had like woven my way halfway through this thing and had to like go figure out what areas I hadn't been to find it. And like that worked eventually, but it is a very labyrinth like layout that I think if they're going to do missions like that where you need to go to a very specific area without any indication of what area that is, there needs to be an indication, because it got to the point where it was like this time-based story thing was happening, and I was just like faffing about in the middle of nowhere and had no idea where to go.
Hold up.
So,
give me a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, aside from that, very good. I think it's probably maybe the most well put together, at least FPS demo I played of these demos. All right, Alex or Brett, you guys got anything you want to talk about for Steam Next Fest?
I do not have anything for Steam Next Fest.
I don't have anything for
list.
Steam Next Fest. But
Dread
if I
Delusion
may,
counts.
I would like to take a chance to talk about Dread Delusion.
Yeah.
How far in have you gotten, Ryan? How many hours have you put into Pinktopia?
I've put, I want to say about 2, but I also just kind of have been faffing about and going in random directions, as you do.
It's very faff. There's like, if you want to, this like even more than like Elden Ring or something, you can just go in any direction and you'll find your way to something interesting, because I don't know, in my experience, the floating island world design lends itself very well to coordinating players into set paths
So
between
Brett,
regions and such.
for people that haven't heard of Dread Delusion, which is probably most of the people
Everywhere.
everywhere,
Yeah.
Why don't you describe this game? Give us the pitch for Dread Delusion.
So imagine your classic old fantasy RPG kind of immersive sim-esque game where you've got your D&D stats. Some dialogue things require certain like stat rolls, and lockpicking is literally a dice on the screen to meet a number, and that kind of thing. Except it's like one of a handful of indie games that actually emulates a PS1 game style, like to the point where it looks like a PS1 game actually, and not just something pretending to look like a PS1 game. And everything is like the most wacky, like it's like brain punk almost. Like, I hate putting like
That's an
noun
interesting phrase.
punk. I hate that. I hate those word combos. But like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like
It's
the
like
sky
LSD
is
punk.
that the sky is literally like, there are no stars, it's neurons, and you can see their like connective like things all like attaching to it, and all the sky is like completely pink. Everything has like a pink like fog over it because the sky is pink, and the whole land has been like fractured. So all the continents that you can go on are all floating islands connected by like floating bridges with smaller floating islands, and like, the iconic floating island with waterfalls sort of shtick and that sort of thing. And there's like airships and cool like steampunk like elevators and technology, but there's also magic, and you use bows and swords and things to fight along with magic and stuff. And it's just such an insane, like, balls to the walls, like nobody said no during development kind of like mishmash of everything. And I think, much like in a very FromSoft way, like, it just works. It really works together. Like, I don't even like, eh, the only thing preventing this from starting like the whole new like, Souls like Strand type game is because this was a game by probably like fewer than 10 or 20 people, and will probably get recognized by around that same amount, unfortunately. But it's really good. It's super
Very good.
cool. It's like, if you're expecting like juggling people around with my sword and parrying and blocking at the right time, it's like you are playing the wrong game, buddy. You got to hold mouse button 1 for a charge and then poke and then stab and then
And
and then poke
backpedal.
and step back
Oh yeah,
and
to the point where it's
then poke.
almost turn based.
Pretty much, honestly, it very well emulates like the clunk of what I would imagine like an older Elder Scrolls game to be.
Morrowind combat.
Exactly, but
It's better than
it does
Morrowind, but not by much.
it's a charming recreation of what like that era of first person melee combat in that game is, because it's actually, it feels pretty good. And then over everything you have this like really interesting story of like old gods. There was a war in the past, that this isn't spoilers because that you just find this out. You could find this out within the first 5 minutes if you
Yeah.
learn how to read, which, if you're watching this podcast, I hope you would by this point.
Hey, I don't know how to read. No judgments.
This is true. If you can't, I guess you're listening to a podcast for a reason.
That's why I play Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, instead of reading our written report that we also release with every podcast,
Of
totally.
course.
Our newsletter.
We have
But
poor Ryan transcribe all of our episodes.
Oh, can you imagine? That'd be horrible.
I'm
sorry for AU Ryan.
Not only do you have to hear my terrible jokes, you have to transcribe them after the fact.
God.
Actually, an AI does it for us in this universe. It's quite jank.
It's the Google auto-generated AI.
Yeah, on YouTube. But yeah, basically in the past, I don't even know what is distant and not too distant, because they're like races of characters that live for thousands of years and talk about things that happened before the islands became a thing, as if they were yesterday.
Oh, that's
but
good.
like the humans waged war against the gods, and this time they actually won. And it sucks because now the people being subjugated are the people that believe in the old gods and the old gods themselves. It's like there's this aspect of like the people not being able to believe in them as much is like lowering their magical power level. So this being an immersive sim, you can choose to side with the humans, which normally would feel like good, like you're rising up against whatever like oppressive Lovecraftian evil has the world under its thumb or whatever. But
Yeah,
this
but the humans kind of suck.
I kind of feel bad for like the horrifying skeleton worm tentacle monsters, because they're just so sad. They're just like, oh, I used to be able to like, I gave people prayed to me and made sacrifices, but like because of that, I gave them like fertile farmland and cows, and now they aren't allowed to do that anymore. So they're all dying, and so am I. And it's like not any better. It might be worse. I don't know. You can like, you basically you can choose to like pray to them or like help the old gods out, and like there's like visual representation of that, where they will like appear over towns and look kind of terrifying enough to where you rethink your thing that you just did. Or you can help the people that want to kill them all and kill them all. And I don't know what happens yet, because I don't know how. I haven't actually looked how far into the game I am. Definitely further than Ryan, because I'm like a couple zones in, and I've been going through what I believe to be story order. But my God, this game is really, really deep, and I can see myself probably doing more than one playthrough of this, because there's just so much. There's different ways to start. There's so many different choices to make.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to play. And an indie game, man. It's so, like, this is like the thing that you never want to undertake as an indie dev, like an open world immersive sim. Like, what are you, insane?
Dude, what kind of crazy person does this?
Exactly. But they did it, and it's in early access, but it feels like kind of one of the boomer shooter esque early access, where this is kind of like an episode.
They're just
1
making the
deal.
content.
Exactly, and like the extra islands and stuff that they've planned to add, which they have like a full roadmap and stuff. And they've already fixed a lot of the things they said they would.
With like things
exactly
and dates.
with words in an order of which they will come out in a one
And no dates, because dates are
list.
a bad thing for indie devs. But
exactly, but I just know, like, hey, by the time I finish this, because there's so much, the next section might be out, or it might be so like fine as it is. I might just consider it finished anyway before the next part comes out, and then when the next part comes out, oh, that's a cool side thing to do.
Oh man, they're making something called the Clockwork Kingdom. I gotta see that.
Exactly.
Is that you?
Yep.
Please come back to me.
So you're not waiting for any more like features or anything. They're just coming out with content.
Yeah, well, there's like a couple features. They've listed like constructing buildings is a thing that they want to have.
House building and stuff.
Constructing buildings, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing like combat-wise.
Yeah, they've said if anything.
I mean, it seems like main loop. It's like
exactly
that's feature locked. You know,
the main gameplay loop, and I think the main story they've said is like 100% locked in. But like, I think they've also said that they're open to like revamping like melee combat or something. Like they're open to fixing or like doing like better versions of stuff as
like
development goes on.
To player feedback during early access. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah,
it's like. It's like what live service should be, but I don't want to call it live service because that's doing it a live disservice.
But they listen to their fans
in order to change the game while it's still in development, while keeping to their original and true vision because they are people with brains.
That's wow.
That's how you do it.
I'm not dissuaded from getting this, but I'm still very weirded out from seeing like that really beautiful character art and then the actual game graphics.
It's gorgeous. I don't know what you're talking about.
I would implore you, Alex specifically, to check this out because everything is so weird and so far up Alex's alley. I feel like you would really enjoy it. Yes, Ryan has told me that, you know what, for some people, including you, Ryan, that the PS1 mush was simply too much. But you can turn it off. You can turn off the mush because I know. Yeah, I know you have genuine like motion sickness problems, and that could probably be like a contributor for it. But you can turn it off if that is the thing that was dissuading you from it. I literally like this is my Alex game recommendation. I really think you would like it. Ooh. I would seriously recommend trying it out.
It's also just very
join
good.
the cult.
It's very good.
Everyone,
you explaining
it's good.
You explaining the world building and lore, I drool over that kind of stuff. You know, like centuries old characters discussing things like they happened yesterday. And
it's also like it's also at the same time as all these like great fantastic praises we're giving it. It's also the same kind of game where like that same old god will just you'll talk to it again, and the dialogue box will come up and it'll say like text box number 4, and you just have to go through a couple of those sometimes. And it's not like this game sucks. It's like that's hilarious. They haven't gotten there yet. I guess
he's literally saying text box number 4,
which
he knows he's in
terrifying.
A game.
Yeah. I love
Imagine
that.
if you walked up to someone and they said that.
It'd be insane.
The simulation is
I'd
real.
run away.
It's the newer version of what's it? I Am Error from Legend of Zelda 2.
Exactly. Oh my god.
All right, Wyatt, bring us down from that high with your second. You've had some real bad luck with picking games lately.
I got a real doozy here for you. It's called Empty. It's called Empty War.
What is this called?
Empty War. So now, okay, I did not. I can feel the judgment already. I did not. To be clear, I did not pick this game because I thought it was going to be good. I specifically picked it because I'm like, this looks like a train wreck.
This is 100% asset swap.
Exactly.
What's going on here? Oh,
Wyatt, this feels mean. This feels ill-intentioned.
I know. I almost don't want to talk about it, but
but it's coming out soon.
September 20th?
Which is really funny because in the demo they have one level which lasts maybe 5 minutes and doesn't even have a win state. You kill all the guys in this tiny area, and that's it. It doesn't say, like, you won, go back to the main menu. No, you just kind of keep walking around.
It's a demo for general combat mechanics that exist in bare minimum.
But Wyatt, it says it's an indie TPS with all current mechanics. All current mechanics. Were they all there?
Would anyone happen to be on the Steam page for this, seeing the About This Game section?
I do have.
Yes,
I do have a positive.
Just read it from.
I do have a positive in my notes here.
Grappling hook.
It has a dodge roll.
Oh, it's got all the current mechanics. That's all you need, and you have all the current mechanics.
It hit the checklist, so it must sell well.
And it had.
Why? There are only 2 posts in the community hub for this game.
Oh.
Did I just not? Am I bullying? Should I just not?
It's like pushing a toddler over, Wyatt. Don't do it.
Your best warrior in your planet. Now your race want to
Oh, they're
conquer
both
everything.
super negative.
Don't push Timmy over in the playground. He's gonna get all wood chips in his shirt, and he's not gonna be able to brush them all out, and he's gonna be too sad to realize that they're even there.
This is
That hit a little deep, Brett. Oh no.
man.
I also got stuck in the first 30 seconds because you're in like a foresty type thing, and I saw that the mountains clearly went up with a bunch of trees, and so I was wondering if I could go up past that, and I couldn't, and I got stuck on the invisible wall, so I had to restart.
On the developers, if I am to be developers advocate to play on a little bit of words, if I may, it does say 4 hours of gameplay, and I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt that they wouldn't just lie. So maybe you just broke something again. Not that's your
Well,
fault.
that's also a
it
description for the
just
full
broke.
game and not the demo.
I don't
trying.
want to
I'm
believe.
trying.
I don't want to believe
Timmy's looking
that
real sad right now, right?
I don't want to believe that you Wyatted a demo.
So, there. So okay.
How did
So
you
you
even
had-
find this?
How
It
far
was-
down did you scroll?
Not as far down as you would think. I'll
Okay.
put it that way. So I just kind of feel bad. So yeah, you get, it's like a little foresty area. You get these like rundown buildings that are definitely not asset flips. You also have this main character design, which also definitely isn't an asset flip. They give you 2 weapons, an automatic rifle, which shoots bursts, but really slowly, and like doesn't really, the kick is crazy. They give you a shotgun, and the shotgun looks like every standard like FPS pump action shotgun. So for what I think is supposed to be like a sci-fi setting, I don't
meshing.
really no.
The houses are all like cottages too, worth pointing
Yeah.
out. So that stands out.
And I walked
as
into
well.
one of them, and there wasn't a floor to the cottage. It was just like the terrain underneath it. I'm not 100% sure if I was supposed to be in there or not.
Definitely not.
I
Yeah.
don't think
Can
so.
answer that question for you. Nope.
Also, this is gonna sound really mean, but this was just what I thought of the UI. The pause menu looked exactly like the pause menu I made for a game tech project in my sophomore year.
Oh.
Or no, my junior year, excuse me, where it was like I just threw something together with stock Unity assets because I needed a menu, and I was more focused on other things
But
for
but
a, like,
Wyatt,
tech
it says right here, done with the power the Unreal Engine.
I'm
Not
sure
of
they
the
use.
Unreal Engine, just done with the power of
I'm
the
sure
Unreal
they
Power
Engine.
use
the-
the best stock Unreal Engine models that they could get their hands on. They're really isn't. I mean, bad controls, but I don't really think anyone was expecting.
My
Brown
final
Town.
critique. My final critique of this game, having not played it, is that on the Steam page it says, "Is this game relevant to you? Similar to games you've played?" And it's just Planet Side 2 and nothing else. And that is
Oh.
not a good sign.
Um.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Comes out in September. Good luck.
At least it comes out sooner than 2255. Maybe it should have waited until 2255.
All right.
I hope you get an audience, and people find something to appreciate. Maybe they can find things in it that others can't.
Yeah.
He's hiding behind his notebook for people that
Oh,
can't
man.
see. He's holding up in front of his face and he's hiding behind it.
Don't show those notes, Wyatt.
Uh...
All right.
It is.
Well, this is your notice that if you are a new startup indie developer, to please send us your demos so that we can play and review them.
Hey, if anyone
I'm gonna
does,
say, listen,
we will
I'm
give you
gonna say
constructive
this again.
feedback, but
Yes.
you got to learn to take it sometimes.
This is true.
I'm gonna say this again, right? It does kind of feel like I'm punching down a little bit, but they put this out on Steam Next Fest for people to play and check out. They are not charging for it, so it's why I'm not being like, shame on you. But it's out there, people can play it, and it's on Steam. I think anything that you get your way, that's what happens when you put out something for the public. So
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
true.
could I have been a little more constructive? Probably, but let me put it this way: there isn't enough there for me to be that constructive.
And that is
That
genuine
is
critique
understandable.
we get at the school that we went to. So
Yeah,
That is the thing
free.
during playtesting. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're looking for a specific thing, and you don't give them enough to really work with and comment on. And I think
And
that's
people will be honest and say that, and that's good.
we can joke about all this other asset flip stuff, but that's the biggest problem is that there isn't really enough to like
No
sink
meat,
your teeth
no
into.
legs to stand on.
Yeah, just asset flips.
All right. Well, hey, let's talk about game medicine and asset flipping. This is really good because I played one more demo I want to talk about, which is Terra Nil. So this is a thing that had a demo last year at Next Fest that I didn't get to play. This year, I picked it up and made sure to play it. It is a reverse city builder. So the concept for this game is that the world's been blown to bits. It's a wasteland now, and you need to rejuvenate it and bring nature back to the planet. And so you have this really cool system where you start out basics and you have to like introduce water. You have to introduce the actual plant matter, turn the earth into things that plant matter can grow on. And then you get like advanced biomes, like you'll randomly grow some like coniferous trees and you can place beehives on them to make flowers happen in a big area. It's very peaceful, very relaxing. But it's also a very good puzzler because the way you build your stuff at the start matters later, because at the end you have to completely deconstruct every building that you've built using the materials from those buildings to create your spaceship to leave the planet. So that way you leave the planet untouched and rejuvenated.
interesting.
So you have to like plan out at the start how you're going to place things so that you can leave and get the highest score possible. You can totally leave and not have an issue if you don't care about your score pretty easily. Like, it's not something you have to worry about, but if you do, you have this really cool dynamic of placing things and making sure that you're placing them in a way that leaves you lots of straight lines that are empty so that you can build rivers to allow the little raft that comes to collect the parts for your boat to easily access every area of the map. And things like that can kind of build a very distinctive look and whatnot, which is super cool. Yeah, it's a really interesting take on this genre.
Nature's
How
Dyson
long?
sphere.
How long are like I mean, I guess we'll refer to them as runs. It's almost like a roguelike.
They're
How long
levels.
are the runs?
So the way the map looks is there's like 5 or 6 big islands and land masses on the map that are like rendered on this planet. The one in the demo is one of those islands, and it's a level that you play, and you rejuvenate this whole level, and it's a tutorial level. And then when you're done, it shows up on that map as like a completed, fully done, rejuvenated area. It took me, I want to say, about 45 minutes, and I was going pretty slow because I was just kind of messing around. The area I was in was definitely the smallest one, so I think they're going to get longer. I have a feeling they get more complicated, because that's always how these city builders tend to work, is they'll gradually introduce more and more complications to the system. So yeah, at the start it feels like a really good difficulty level, and generally is just a really satisfying gameplay flow, I think, to really make it this like relaxing little game that I think is very fun. And you totally can fail. If you don't do stuff right, you can fail, because you have to use the plant matter that you create to build new buildings. So if you mess up and don't make good choices, you won't have enough matter to create all the buildings and then pack them up again. So you have to you do have to be on your toes and make sure that you're not like making terrible decisions all the time.
Yeah.
Which is easy enough to do as long as you kind of pay attention, but it does mean getting like 100% of the map painted to get the maximum score, I'm sure is very difficult and will take a lot of attempts to get right. Yeah, it's a very satisfying game that I think is definitely going to be a hit when it comes out. Starting to get a lot of eyes on it. Looks
I
very
love
pretty.
this. Yeah, from what I can see from the visuals, I really like the style of it. But I love this as a concept.
Yep.
Because like city builders for me, as like I mean, I haven't really touched upon any of the genre. They've just kind of not seemed very interesting to me. So why would I? But like like that whole city builder concept of just like, well, you sure are building the city. When does it end? When you do a good enough job, I guess I don't know. It's just kind of Sim City just ends when you feel like it, I guess. But
When you
this
want it to
having
end.
like this having a built-in end state, I feel like is something that like people could find problems with, but I feel like also is probably a better alternative for a
Oh, well,
lot
that's
of
also
people
how
because
a lot of city builders do work that way. It's mainly the SimCity city builders that don't. The ones that branch off of the SimCity type. Like, Anno does have end states, and you can win the game. And
okay.
Anno is, like, my personal favorite city builder. It's a very good, like, resource management game. And most city builders have campaigns that are structured very similarly to where they're kind of like lengthy tutorials, a lot like Civilization games and other grand strategy
It's
things that
like
introduce you to
get to this
mechanics.
point, make this many people happy or
So I
whatever.
do
The
wonder
preload.
if Terra Nil's main game mode is going to be this like story mode, or if it's going to be some like randomly generated thing. I doubt it if it's randomly generated, but yeah, I'm curious if it's going to be mostly designed levels or mostly a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
super
can
cool.
see
And you can do
fan
things
made
like
levels.
controlled burns are very cool, where you can
That's
like
cool.
tear down a lot of the stuff you've done with a controlled burn and then regrow a like dense forest on top of it, which is very fun. So lots of things to do in this game. The demo is a good length. It gives you a really good feel for the game, but it's only one level, so gotta wait for the whole thing to come out to get the rest of your fix. All right. Any other games we want to talk about? If not, that's it. We talked about them all. We hit the next fest demos that we played. I am going to be talking about WrestleQuest. All right, I have WrestleQuest loaded up and ready to go. I will be talking about this game. I haven't been able to play it yet because I want to sit down and give it a good chunk of time.
Good.
So
I'll talk
that
about
will get
Dragon's
talked about.
Dogma when that happens too.
Oh yeah, that'll probably be in 2 weeks.
Start.
Because go ahead, Alex.
Oh no, never.
You just chatting about Dragon's Dogma. Good game. So yeah, well next week we'll tentatively have that planned to be the Game Pass Games Club that we will record at this regular time. On Sunday, it'll be live on Tuesday. That'll be us playing Lost in Random, Alice the Madness Returns. Where is my list of these things? Here it
Children of
is.
Morta.
Activation and
Children
Children of Morta.
And Children of Morta. Good games all around this time, I think. I've enjoyed all of the ones that I've played so far, which
I
is all of
finally
them.
picked a good game. I did it.
All of them except the one
Hooray!
that I picked, which is the last one that I have yet to play.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, because I like to check them through the list and get through different things. I also got really into Alice Madness Returns and just kind of kept playing it. So
Nice.
I kept going with
That
that.
was me with Lost in Random.
Yep. All right. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week. First, it's time for shoutouts. We're gonna do the shoutouts. It's the shoutout time.
I'll go. I've got one ready to go.
Great.
My shout out goes to all of the bard songs in Dragon Age Inquisition. It's this one singer that does all of the bard songs, and they are the catchiest things you've ever heard. And there's more as the story progresses because she's like writing about like
cool.
the people you meet and like the different things you do. So there's more of them as you progress, which is one of the ways the game shows the passage of time. It's super cool.
Neat.
Yep. Hey, shout out to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak making me not get many games I was interested in getting because it's coming out soon and I wouldn't be able to play them because I'd be too into Monster Hunter Rise. So sorry, Fire Emblem Three Hopes and Nirvana Initiative, because you both look really good and I will play you, but you're going on the back burner until Sunbreak is done. Because Sunbreak will be a time vampire for a little while. So, yep.
Mine goes to hey Ryan, I finally started watching 86 because my other watch group finally got to it a million years in the making. We're like fewer than 10 episodes in, and it's really, really good. If you wanna see a character's reaction to being torn apart in a Modern Warfare 2 lobby in voice chat, then boy howdy is 86 the show for you.
What?
And I think if you have seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's incredible. I want to talk about this more when I finish it, because I think this is the first show in a while in terms of like actual release date that I am like super behind. Like, this is like a 2021 show that I am very surprised how serious the things that it tackles.
Right, it has good CG.
I know, good CG for a good CG for the robots. I don't even feel bad really that it's there. And you know what? The character like animation and designs and stuff that are 2D are fantastic as a result of them not having to spend a bunch of budget and time on the robots, just like Gun of the Origin, which for all of you who don't know what that means, which is almost everyone, it's good. Watch it.
I have a Char's Zaku 2 from the Origin sitting next to my foot, ready to be built. So
good.
Ooh,
it's waiting there. All right,
hey,
Alex.
Brett, put it on the list, coward. I guess I was gonna say we're ending on a wholesome one, but I think am I the last one or just
You're
right?
the last one.
Okay, so we are ending on a wholesome. Shout out to my mom. As of recording this, it's her birthday tomorrow.
Ooh,
Aww.
Happy
fun times. That said, this is the end of the podcast. Happy birthday to your mother as this goes live. But the show's over. We'll catch you next week while we talk about more video games. That's what we do on the show.
Make sure to check out for the release of Empty War.
Until the last, this man will tear this
don't.
poor game to pieces.
Officially endorsed.
Oh no.